the Rent-Expenditure model and its usefulness in macroeconomy. The balance. Equilibrium occurs where aggregate demand equals income. Graphically, the equilibrium is given by the bisect of the angle formed by the axis of aggregate demand and income. The bisect indicates the points where aggregate demand is equal to income. So, if income is worth 4, the bisect will project that aggregate demand is also worth 4, indicating that the condition that aggregate demand is equal to income is met. How is the equilibrium income obtained? We know that the aggregate demand equals A plus the marginal propensity to consume multiplied by 1 minus T for rent. Thus, if the income is equal to 0, the aggregate demand will be equal to the value of A. It is reflected in the graph. At the origin, aggregate demand takes the value of A. But if income increases, if there is an increase in income, aggregate demand grows. Why does it grow? Because the value of the marginal propensity, 1 minus T, is a positive value. That is, the slope of the aggregate demand curve is positive. In this way, there is a cut between the aggregate demand curve and the bisect. It is an equilibrium point that we call E sub 0. The equilibrium point is reached for an income level, Y asterisk, which we call the equilibrium point. What does equilibrium income depend on? The equilibrium rate depends on the position of the one hand and on the slope on the other. Let us look at the change in position. If there is an increase from A to A premium, the value of aggregate demand on the vertical axis changes to A premium. This increase is equal to the increase in aggregate demand for A, then shifts in parallel outward because the slope does not change. Thus, we obtain a new cutoff point which we call E sub 1, and that gives rise to a new level of equilibrium income called Y asterisk 1. Thus, if an increase in A occurs, an increase or a change in the equilibrium position occurs, and therefore an increase in the equilibrium income level occurs. Let us now look at a change of the slope. The slope depends on the marginal propensity to consume multiplied by 1 minus T, which we have said is positive. If this value increases, the slope will be steeper. The point at the original does not change since the value of A have not changed. The curve becomes more inclined and we obtain a new cut-off point that we call E sub 1, and that reflects a new level of income Y asterisk 1. In this way, the change in slope will reflect a new change of the break-even point and an increase in the equilibrium income.